Finally, I'm free from your dead weight. Those words echoed through the courtroom as Marcus slammed his pen down after signing the divorce papers. His cruel laughter filled the silence. For 3 years, he had treated Sophia like she was invisible. Her hands weren't trembling from fear. They were trembling from the weight of what was about to unfold. Marcus leaned back in his leather chair. That familiar smirk plastered across his face. The same smirk he wore when he belittled her dreams. The same smirk he wore when he forgot she existed at his success parties. The same smirk he wore when he introduced her as someone who just helps around. But today, that smirk was about to be wiped clean. The judge cleared his throat, shuffling through papers with deliberate slowness. Before we finalize these proceedings, there's one final financial disclosure to review. Marcus rolled his eyes, checking his expensive watch. He was already mentally planning his celebration dinner. Your Honor, my client has nothing to declare, his lawyer said confidently. Sophia's attorney stood up slowly, a thick manila folder in his hands. Actually, Your Honor, we do have some documents to present. The folder hit the table with a solid thud. Marcus glanced over, mildly annoyed by the delay. He had no idea that folder contained the shock of his lifetime. Inside those pages was proof of an empire he never knew existed. An empire built in complete silence. An empire that would shatter everything he thought he knew about the woman he was divorcing. The woman he thought had nothing was about to reveal she had everything. 7 years earlier, Sophia was just 23 years old. Her eyes sparkled with dreams and her heart overflowed with love. She believed in fairy tales and happy endings. Marcus was her Prince Charming, or so she thought. He had grand visions of building a tech empire. His passion was infectious, his ambition magnetic. Sophia had her own dreams too. A sustainable jewelry business that would change the industry. But love made her sacrifice everything. When you rise, we rise together, she whispered to herself every night. She worked brutal 12-hour shifts at the marketing firm. Came home exhausted, yet still cooked his favorite meals. Still cleaned their tiny apartment. Still stayed up until 2 a.m. helping him perfect his business pitches. When rent was due and they had nothing, Sophia didn't hesitate. She sold her grandmother's pearl necklace, her most precious possession. Then her vintage watch collection. Then her art supplies and camera equipment. Piece by piece, she dismantled her own dreams to fund his. This is what real love looks like, she convinced herself. Marcus never asked about her sacrifices. Never noticed the empty jewelry box on her dresser. Never wondered why she stopped sketching jewelry designs. He was too consumed with his own ambitions to see hers disappearing. But Sophia kept mental notes of everything. Every dollar she contributed. Every dream she postponed. Every night she went to bed feeling smaller. She stayed quiet, but her mind was recording. She was building a case she didn't even know she'd need. The girl who gave everything was about to learn the cost of loving someone who took everything. Success changed Marcus completely. When his app finally took off, everything shifted overnight. News stations wanted interviews. Tech conferences invited him as a keynote speaker. Money poured in like a waterfall. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be Marcus Chen's friend. But as his world expanded, Sophia's presence in it shrank. The man who once held her hand proudly now walked 10 feet ahead. At networking events, he introduced her as someone who helps around the house. Not his wife. Not his partner. Just someone. The humiliation cut deeper each time. Successful entrepreneurs would shake his hand and ignore her completely. She became furniture in her own marriage. Invisible. Irrelevant. Forgotten. Marcus started wearing designer suits and expensive cologne. He hired a personal trainer and got his teeth whitened. He crafted a new image of himself, the self-made genius. In his carefully edited success story, Sophia didn't exist. The late nights she spent helping him code? Never happened. The rent money she provided? He bootstrapped everything alone. The emotional support during his darkest moments? I've always been mentally strong. One evening at a tech mogul's mansion party, Sophia overheard the conversation that broke something inside her. Marcus was laughing loudly with a group of investors. Sophia? She was just a phase, honestly. You know how it is when you're young and desperate. The men laughed along. Sophia stood 10 feet away, holding a tray of appetizers, feeling her heart shatter in real time. But she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply filed that moment away in her memory. The woman they thought was broken was actually taking notes. And soon those notes would become her weapon.
If you love gripping and emotional stories that keep you hooked, don't forget to hit like and subscribe my channel, Africa FolkStory.
Sophia couldn't sleep that night. Marcus had come home after 2 a.m., reeking of champagne and another woman's perfume. He didn't even look at her, just headed straight to his home office for a business call. His voice carried through the thin walls. Loud, arrogant, careless. Sophia crept into the hallway, her bare feet silent against the cold hardwood. She pressed her back against the wall and listened. Sophia? Please, David, she's sweet, but I deserve better now. A woman who matches my level of success. His words hit her like ice water. I'm thinking of trading up, if you know what I mean. Maybe that attorney from the conference, blonde, sophisticated, actually accomplished. He laughed at his own cruelty. Sophia's heart didn't break loudly this time. It cracked in complete, devastating silence. She expected tears, expected rage, expected something. But instead she felt empty, hollow, like a ghost haunting her own life. She turned and walked to the spare bedroom, her old creative space. Dust particles danced in the moonlight streaming through the window. In the corner sat her laptop, untouched for 4 years. 4 years since she'd abandoned her jewelry design dreams. 4 years since she'd put Marcus first in everything. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. The desktop appeared. And there it was, a folder labeled Lumina Designs by Sophia. Her old sketches loaded one by one. Elegant rings, bold necklaces, sustainable materials, revolutionary designs. Her past stared back at her, waiting patiently. That night, she made a decision that would change everything. If Marcus thought she wasn't enough, fine. She wouldn't waste energy proving him wrong. She would prove to herself that she was everything. For the next 20 months, Sophia lived 2 completely different lives. By day, she played the role of the forgotten wife. Quiet, obedient, invisible. But when darkness fell and Marcus passed out from his expensive whiskey, Sophia became someone else entirely. She worked until sunrise, learning, creating, building. She studied sustainable jewelry manufacturing through online courses, mastered social media marketing, connected with eco-conscious suppliers in Thailand and Peru, learned about cryptocurrency payments and international shipping. She chose a new identity, Luna, mysterious, powerful, untraceable. Under this name, she launched her first collection, Hidden Gems. Each piece told a story of transformation, of finding beauty in forgotten places, of turning pressure into diamonds. Her website went live at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Within 6 hours, she had her first sale. Within a week, she had 50 orders. Within a month, sustainability influencers were featuring her pieces. Meanwhile, Marcus had started his own podcast, Alpha Mindset. He loved lecturing about business success and personal branding. His favorite topic? Mocking fake entrepreneurs. These wannabe female founders. He'd laugh into his microphone. Most of them are just playing dress up with daddy's money. Sophia would sit in the kitchen, pretending to scroll her phone while listening to every cruel word. Each insult was fuel for her midnight fire. Every laugh at women like her made her work harder. The irony was delicious. The woman he was mocking was sitting 20 feet away, quietly building an empire that would soon eclipse his own. Marcus never noticed her laptop, never asked about her late nights, never wondered why she seemed different. He was too busy being famous to notice his wife was becoming legendary. Sophia decided to surprise Marcus with lunch at his office. It was something she used to do in their early days. A small gesture of love and connection. She packed his favorite Thai curry and took an Uber downtown. Walking into his sleek office building, she felt nervous excitement. Maybe they could reconnect. Maybe there was still hope. But when she reached his executive suite, Marcus wasn't there. Instead, his assistant Elena sat behind his desk, feet up, looking very much at home. Elena was beautiful, the kind of woman who turned heads effortlessly. But it wasn't her beauty that made Sophia's blood freeze. It was her obviously pregnant belly. Elena looked up with cold amusement. "Oh, you must be the wife," she said with a smirk. Marcus told me you were his sick cousin who helps with housework. The words hit like bullets. Sophia stood frozen, the lunch container trembling in her hands. Elena laughed, placing a protective hand over her bump. 6 months along, in case you're wondering. He's so excited to finally have a family with someone worthy. The room started spinning. 3 years of marriage. 3 years of sacrifice. 3 years of believing in their future together. And he was building a new family behind her back. With a woman who didn't even know Sophia's real identity. But even in that moment of devastating betrayal, Sophia didn't scream, didn't throw the food, didn't beg for explanations. Instead, she set the lunch on the desk calmly. "Tell him Sophia stopped by," she said quietly. She walked out with dignity intact. But in the elevator, she pulled out her phone. "It's time," she texted her attorney. The woman Marcus underestimated was finally ready to show her true power. When Sophia filed for divorce, Marcus thought Christmas had come early. He strutted around their penthouse like a peacock. "She'll come crawling back within a week," he boasted to his friends, "probably begging for alimony, which I'll obviously reject." He had no idea Sophia had been preparing for this moment for months. While he mocked female entrepreneurs on his podcast, she had become one of the most successful in the country. Luna's jewelry line had exploded across social media. Celebrities were wearing her pieces to red carpet events. Sustainability magazines featured her work. International buyers were placing massive orders. But Marcus remained completely oblivious. He never asked about her days, never noticed her confidence growing, never wondered about the packages arriving daily. He was too intoxicated by his own success to see hers building. On the morning of the preliminary hearing, Marcus chose his most expensive suit. His lawyer assured him this would be quick and painless. "She has nothing, Marcus. This is just a formality." Sophia arrived in a simple black dress. No jewelry, no makeup, nothing flashy or attention-grabbing. But in her briefcase was documentation that would shatter Marcus's world. Bank statements showing 7-figure revenues, contracts with major retailers, international expansion plans, patent applications for revolutionary sustainable jewelry techniques, legal documents proving sole ownership of a company now valued at $12 million. The judge called the session to order. Marcus sat back confidently, already mentally spending his freedom. But when Sophia's attorney stood up with that thick folder, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Your Honor, my client has significant assets to declare." Marcus's smug expression began to crack. The woman he thought had nothing was about to reveal she had everything. The courtroom fell silent as Sophia's attorney began reading. Luna Sustainable Jewelry LLC, founded 18 months ago, currently valued at $12.7 million. Marcus blinked hard. Luna Jewelry. He'd heard that name somewhere before. Annual revenue of $4.2 million, with projected growth of 300% next year. The numbers kept coming like punches. International partnerships, celebrity endorsements, patent applications, retail contracts. Marcus leaned forward, his expensive suit suddenly feeling tight. Exclusive contracts with Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue, and Harrods London. His lawyer looked confused, frantically shuffling through papers. Recent feature in Vogue as the mystery designer revolutionizing sustainable luxury. Marcus's hands started shaking. The judge continued reading the financial disclosure. Total assets including inventory, intellectual property, and cash reserves, $14.3 million. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Marcus finally found his voice. "Luna Jewelry. That's impossible." Sophia turned to look at him directly for the first time. Her eyes held no anger, no satisfaction, just calm, quiet power. "It always was possible, Marcus. You just never asked what I was working on." The words hit him like a freight train. Every late night he thought she was watching TV. Every morning he assumed she was doing nothing. Every conversation he dominated while she stayed quiet. She hadn't been idle. She'd been building, planning, creating an empire. While he mocked women entrepreneurs, his own wife had become one of the most successful in the country. Under his own roof, in complete silence. The man who thought he was the only genius in the relationship just realized he'd been living with someone far more brilliant. And he'd been too arrogant to notice. Sophia could have destroyed Marcus completely. Legally, she had the right to claim half of everything he owned. The penthouse, the cars, the investment portfolio, his precious podcast equipment. Everyone expected revenge. A scorched earth approach. Complete annihilation. But Sophia chose a different path. She didn't want the house that held memories of being ignored. She didn't want the cars he used to show off. She didn't want anything that reminded her of feeling small. Instead, she kept only what truly mattered. Her dignity. Her business. Her peace of mind. "I don't want any of his assets," she told her attorney quietly. "Just the clean break." Marcus stared at her in confusion. This wasn't the bitter, vengeful ex-wife he'd expected. This was someone operating on a completely different level. Someone who had moved so far beyond their relationship that his possessions meant nothing to her. She had something infinitely more valuable than his material wealth. She had built her own empire. From nothing. In secret. While he slept soundly, believing he was the successful one. Sophia signed the papers with steady hands. No tears. No drama. No desperate pleas for reconciliation. She gathered her purse, stood up gracefully, and walked toward the door. At the threshold, she paused. Without turning around, she spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. "Marcus, I hope you find someone who matches your level." The double meaning wasn't lost on anyone. She wasn't being cruel. She was being truthful. She had simply outgrown him in every possible way. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Marcus sat alone, finally understanding what he'd lost. 6 months after the divorce, Marcus sat in another sterile waiting room. This time for a business meeting that was running late. His company had been struggling lately. Investors were pulling out. His podcast ratings were dropping. The tech world was moving on without him. Bored and frustrated, he grabbed a magazine from the coffee table. Forbes, Business Insider, and then Vanity Fair. He almost dropped it. There on the glossy cover was a photo that stopped his heart. Sophia. But not the Sophia he remembered. This woman radiated power. She wore an elegant emerald dress that complemented her glowing skin. Her hair was styled in a sophisticated updo. Her smile was confident, mysterious, magnetic. The headline read, "The Mystery Mogul Revealed. Meet Luna. The Silent Storm Taking Over Sustainable Luxury." Marcus's hands trembled as he opened to the feature article. Page after page detailed Sophia's incredible journey. Her innovative manufacturing processes. Her celebrity client list. Her expansion into European markets. Her upcoming collaboration with a major fashion house. The article called her the most influential entrepreneur under 30. It praised her for revolutionizing an entire industry while maintaining complete privacy. One quote made his stomach drop. "I learned that real power doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists." Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away, Sophia stood in her corner office overlooking Manhattan. Her assistant knocked softly. The Vanity Fair article just went viral. Over 2 million shares in the first hour. Sophia smiled, looking out at the city she now dominated. She wasn't thinking about Marcus. Wasn't thinking about revenge or vindication. She was thinking about her next collection. Her upcoming TED Talk. Her future. A future she built entirely on her own terms. Marcus couldn't stop staring at the magazine. Every detail in the article felt surreal. Photos of Sophia at the Met Gala. Quotes from A-list celebrities praising her designs. Financial analysts predicting her company would go public within 2 years. She had become everything he pretended to be. Actually successful. Actually influential. Actually respected. The article mentioned her mysterious rise and preference for privacy. It called her approach strategic silence and revolutionary discretion. Everything he had mistaken for weakness had actually been strength. Her quietness wasn't submission, it was focus. Her invisibility wasn't failure, it was strategy. Her silence wasn't emptiness, it was power gathering itself. Marcus thought back to all those nights she worked late. He'd assumed she was watching Netflix. She was building an empire. All those mornings she seemed different. He'd thought she was moody. She was confident from overnight success. All those times she declined his social events. He'd assumed she was antisocial. She was networking with people who actually mattered. The man who thought he was the genius had been living with someone operating on a completely different intellectual level. And he'd been too self-absorbed to notice. His phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Saw the article. That's your ex-wife? The Luna? OMG, do you know how much her jewelry costs? I can't afford a single piece. Marcus laughed bitterly. The woman carrying his child was impressed by his ex-wife's success. The woman he'd called dead weight was now worth more than his entire net worth. The woman he'd traded in for an upgrade had upgraded herself so far beyond him that they existed in different stratospheres. He closed the magazine and sat back. For the first time in his life, Marcus Chen felt truly completely small. 2 years later, Marcus received an invitation that made his blood freeze. Thick, cream-colored paper. Gold embossing. Expensive beyond measure. Luna Sustainable Jewelry cordially invites you to the exclusive launch of our revolutionary new collection, Phoenix Rising. His hand shook as he read the details. Private showing at the Museum of Modern Art. A list celebrities confirmed to attend. International media coverage. And at the bottom, in elegant script, personal invitation from the founder. Marcus knew he shouldn't go. His ego couldn't handle seeing Sophia's complete transformation. But curiosity consumed him. The night of the event, he stood outside MoMA, watching celebrities and billionaires stream inside. Paparazzi flashed cameras at every arrival. This wasn't just a jewelry launch. This was a cultural moment. Inside, the exhibition was breathtaking. Sophia's pieces were displayed like priceless art. Each jewelry piece told a story of transformation, resilience, and rebirth. Then she appeared. Sophia walked onto the small stage, and the entire room fell silent. She wore a stunning midnight blue gown and a single piece from her new collection, a phoenix pendant that seemed to catch fire under the lights. 2 years ago, she began, her voice carrying perfectly through the hushed space. I was invisible. Tonight, I want to thank everyone who didn't see me coming. The crowd erupted in applause. Marcus stood frozen in the back, finally understanding the true magnitude of what he'd lost. But then Sophia's eyes found his across the crowded room. She smiled not with triumph or revenge, but with something far more devastating. Pity. Because sometimes, she continued, still looking directly at him, the best thing someone can do for you is underestimate you completely. The applause thundered. Marcus realized with crushing clarity that he hadn't just lost his wife. He had lost the most extraordinary woman he would ever meet. And the most shocking part? She was just getting started.
If this heart-touching story moved you, don't let it be the last. Like, share and subscribe to my channel and keep the emotions flowing. Another heart-touching story is ready for you to listen and enjoy.